Who are the PIJ? The PIJ is an acronym that stands for the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a translation from the Arabic Harakat al-Jihad al-Islami fi Filistin. This group was established in Palestine, but is not the same as Hamas, the more well-known group that fights against Israel and others based in the Gaza Strip territory. Instead, the PIJ were founded in 1981 as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. It has its roots in Egypt, although several individuals of Palestinian origin were its original founders. They had at first founded a different organization known as Egyptian Islamic Jihad. This group had been formed in 1971 and had been based in Egypt. However, in 1981, following their successful assassination of Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, who had himself, following the Camp David Accords, normalized Egyptian relations with Israel, they had been expelled from Egypt and forced to find a new center of activities. They chose the Gaza Strip for this and renamed their organization as their main aim is the destruction of the state of Israel. As part of this, they also outright reject a two-state solution, in which instead of the current situation, two autonomous states would be created, one Israeli and one Palestinian. Instead, they wish to dismantle entirely the state of Israel and to create a Palestinian state in the territory of the 1948 borders that had been proposed beforehand. Their desired vision for such a state is quite different to the more secular Palestinian movements such as Fatah or the Palestinian Liberation Organization, such as is explained by Shaul Bartal, who writes, "The success of the Iranian Shia opposition to the secular monarchy convinced both leaders, that is, of this movement of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, that an Islamic movement could not only overthrow a powerful regime, but could even set up an Islamic state in its stead. The PIJ thus saw its fight as being part of a greater Islamic revolution and a struggle to establish a caliphate across the Middle East. The PIJ emphasized the central importance of the liberation of Palestine and adopted the idea of jihad now. Through its organization's control of mosques, the founding of a student association called Al-Rabita al-Islamiyya, the Islamic Link, and the publication of several periodicals, the PIJ developed a social infrastructure. This aided it in recruiting new members, which in turn helped it increase the support for armed struggle against Israel. The PIJ would begin with their endeavors to topple the state in 1984. In 1988, however, they would have to flee the Gaza Strip as the Israeli authorities increasingly cracked down on them, and they would relocate to Lebanon. In particular, in Lebanon, they would receive funding, training, and additional aid from the more well-established and far larger Hezbollah group, who I've already made a video about in the past. Now, with Hezbollah, of course, Iran is incredibly important for its backing and funding, and it's known that Iran has also been behind the funding of the PIJ at various times too, although this relationship has not always been very easy. In 1990, they would move again, this time to neighboring Syria, which has also supported the group. They're most famous within Israel for their suicide bombings, though they have carried out other kinds of attacks as well. The PIJ are generally recognized to be the most radical of the Palestinian groups, the terror groups that have been recognized by several different countries, including the United States, the United Kingdom, the United Nations, and the European Union, as being those terrorist groups that are attacking Israel from the various Palestinian territories. However, this does not mean that they are all necessarily on the same page, as there has been a lot of friction between Hamas and the PIJ, particularly when Hamas were trying to negotiate certain settlements with Israel and the PIJ continued its attacks. Something similar happened in 2012, for example, where several of the non-Hamas aligned militia groups within the Gaza Strip continued to attack Israel, and in turn, Israel did not strike any Hamas positions, but rather attacked these other militias' positions. There has also been certain issues with the relationship with Iran, particularly when the PIJ refused to condemn Saudi involvement in the war in Yemen. There have even been reports that this led to Iran withdrawing its funding from the PIJ PIJ in its entirety, but it's hard to tell whether this is actually the case, because the PIJ still continues to be one of the larger non-Hamas aligned militias in the Gaza Strip as well as in the West Bank. Using its militia organization of the Al-Quds Brigades, they appear also to have been involved in the October 7th attacks and are currently involved in the continued war in the Gaza Strip. As well as this, they have also been responsible for firing many rockets into Israel over the years and continue to do so. Now in 2023, while everything is very much up in the air, we will see what the situation looks like on the ground following this latest spate of violence. Hopefully it won't last too long.